Hi, guys. As promised, we are back with another episode of Happiness Coach podcast. Um, we delved into emotional intelligence previously with specific interest on empathy. So, if you haven't heard that, I would recommend you to have a listen to that and then come back to this. On today's podcast, we talk about the next step. Uh, Not necessarily the next step, but an addition to emotional intelligence, what it encompasses. On today's podcast, we talk about mindfulness, and who better to discuss it with than Mr. Manish Bahel. Um, Manish, it's my pleasure to welcome you, a renowned face and expert in mindfulness. Just for everybody, so that I can introduce Manish properly. Um, Manish is globally renowned and acclaimed mindfulness expert. He is also India's first mindfulness TEDx speaker, specializing in cultivating mindfulness and emotional intelligence. Manish has been in a senior corporate job or experience for 25 years, trained hundreds of leaders, professionals, and individuals, thousands of life touched, and have achieved success. Um, while we are ready to jump in, and I'll of course let Manish talk about himself a little bit here as well. We're ready to jump in, but there is this famous quote of Manish's that we will expand later, and that really stuck with me because when I did all the research and then I looked at your profile and then we decided to come together, there was this thing that master your mind, master your life. And I have been hearing about this, mastering of mind, calming the voices down, meditating, being present, being mindful. All of this will be, spoken about on this podcast. But this thing really like put a pin on my head that yes, we will definitely talk about this quote from you. But Manish, over to you. How are we doing today? How are we feeling? And are you excited?
So, thank you, Yash, first of all, for inviting me to your this exciting
Very
podcast
welcome.
and wonderful work you are doing by educating people and bringing speakers on mindfulness and emotional intelligence and all relative topics on positive psychology. This is one of my favorite subject. I have almost quit everything and I'm focused on this subject because I feel this is the most subject in today's time. I work in mindfulness in my today's time of my life. This is the one thing which I think if I can contribute to expand this knowledge a little bit more to the people, what I have experienced in last 30 years of my working in a corporate world, the challenges, the behavioral issues, the competition, the ego clash, the silo working style, hiding information. So there are multiple challenges which in corporate day-to-day world we focus on. We don't deal, we focus on those things because we don't focus on probably success or happiness, but we focus in particularly on those things and those things expand in our life. So mindfulness, I felt, is one of the most important tool. Every person should actually know about it, practice it, and somehow incorporate in our day to day life.
Perfect.
And
Perfect. We will definitely talk about mindfulness, but let's first talk about you. Let me get to know you a little bit, and then we can definitely go on and on about mindfulness. And you're absolutely right while saying that. I mean, we see it a lot, not just corporate but personal life. We'll talk about both. We see it a lot in the corporate sphere, silo specifically being developed in corporate spheres. We see a lot of unhappy people, but this concept of positive intelligence, about emotional intelligence, about feedbacks. A lot of this is just growing. In the past 2 years, I have seen a tremendous growth of organizations. Not just even 2 years. after, at least after COVID, I was in this sphere, so I have seen it after that. But yes, in the previous year we saw a lot of tremendous growth in managers and leadership, and the CEOs wanting to do these kind of practices, how to be more emotionally intelligent, how to be more inclusive, how to be more diverse. So it's good to see this the changes in companies. But I would like to ask, what invited you, specifically to go into this subject? As you said that you had 30 years of, corporate work. What was that spark that you felt that, okay, you know, let me tread my legs here, and let me see what it holds for me?
So, so working for almost about 25, 30 years in a corporate world as a top leadership position, I woke up every morning with trouble with this consistent thought: is this more to life than this? Okay. And this every morning, this thought used to be when I get up in the morning, and is there more to life than this? Because I was seeing almost on the top crest of the world how the top world leaders function, or businesses function. And I need to know that something is more than this in this world, or more than this in this life. And I knew I need to change in myself, not in the outward. It has to be inward. So something I'm not experiencing inward, and I needed to change it, and I needed it very promptly. But somehow you are ignorant that how this change will happen and how the change will look like. And happiness, I felt, is a very overrated concept of selling things or selling thoughts. But I think I was more into living that how can I live beyond happiness in a manner which has a complete peace or joy, a purpose, what you are doing, what you are contributing. So these are the certain illusions of life which I really wanted to come to the reality. And that was my talk at at IIT Kharagpur, was the coming to reality. That what is reality? Am I living in some illusion that okay, I will have more money, I will be more happy, I will have a bigger house, I will be more happy, a bigger car, more happy, or I control many people, I would be happy? Is this the only definition for our existence? And it's that how then we are different from certain more animals, that we just find pleasures in our physical pleasures from food, eat, and procreation, all kind of stuff. So I started walking, and I'm a meditator from a very early age of my life. I started meditating at age of 7, learned Sukshma Yoga from various teachers and monks, and I was very fortunate to learn Vedic science in a very early part of my life. Lived in Himachal, Dharamshala, and it's a land of devs and devtas, which so called. But there, the teachers are amazing, and I believe those are the devs and devtas of this world. That you find right teachers in your life, and they guide you. I have been very fortunate that I stayed in those areas. And then when I become and I came to a corporate world, I continued with my those practices. But the pressure of life is such that you just lose touch with those things. Day to day life is so strong that pulls you into the in the world, and I somehow lost in touch. But when I saw the complexity of life too intense, I there was only one thing which I thought I have to fall back on my mindfulness practices. And when I started falling back on my mindfulness practices, I saw my world changing. I saw people I'm managing changed. I had teams across the globe, like some people are in India, some in UK, Africa, US, across the globe. I felt that every one of are facing a very similar challenges. It's very universal that what we are facing. It's not that something we are facing in India, people in Europe are not facing, or people in America. And emotionally, we are going through a same roller coaster ride, sometime high, sometime low, sometime high. It's never stationary, never calm. And probably some people think that is the life. So my journey to explore the real human potential beyond the means of happiness is something exist. And then I started this organization in 2014 called Beyond Mind. But the purpose was to see the nuances of brain, and can we go across that nuances and can think beyond the abilities of mind. But I think it was slightly more esoteric, so we then concentrated more on a scientific research of human behavior, which is emotional intelligence part of it, which is a neuroscience part of it, and how mindfulness complement these sciences. And then we created a institute called Mindful Science Center, where the more scientific studies were conducted, research were conducted, and also incorporate the researchers of various institutes like Oxford Mindfulness or Harvard Medical School or Greater Good Science. All those institutes who are working intensely on human behavior. And there's a creation of Mindful Science Center happen, and I did a lot of research, helped a lot of organization, trained athletes, CEOs, teachers, bankers, musicians, Indian police forces, Indian international military forces, doctors, scientists. Imagine kind of people I have met and helped them in finding mindfulness as a way of their own life.
That is amazing to hear. A lot of questions there, um, but I will keep it to myself till the end of the podcast, because then we'll be just stuck here, because it's nice to know that you know even even in the questions ahead we'll talk about science a lot, neuroscience a lot. Richard Jefferson, I think, is one of the speakers who talks about neuroscience and mindfulness very well, and it's really good to hear from you that that the science behind mindfulness as well, the science behind emotional intelligence, how the brain connects with mindfulness, because it's not just meditation. It's not just um, it's not as simple as it looks, because people who really do research for it, people who really do go into it, would agree with me that it's not as simple as it looks. It's not what your auntie or your neighbor would tell you. Okay, kar le meditation for 5 minutes and you will be mindful. No, it's really not that. But we will definitely talk about it. It's amazing to hear from you. I know that you have had a lot of experience in this, and that's why we wanted to bring you along. And I'm a curious thinker. I always want to understand from people like what they went through in life, and what made them come here, because it's really hard to find purpose. That's also being mindful. Find purpose in life, and seeing where you're compatible at. Not at a certain point. You think that this corporate job is it, and or maybe some other, like, this business is it, or something like that, and you like the highs and lows. Maybe you're the person for that. But really, like, that inner ikigai, as we talk about it, to find that is absolutely important, because otherwise happiness doesn't come to us very naturally these days, because of so many things. And we'll talk about that as well. Okay, perfect. Let's begin by asking you. As I said, that it's more complex. Mindfulness is more complex than we think about it. So, what exactly is mindfulness, if you had to just put it in words, and how do you define it? In the previous podcast also, we talked about, like, words are not enough, but still, for people to understand the complexity of it, if we can describe mindfulness.
Yeah. So, in general manner, mindfulness is always with us. Uh, it never goes away. If mindfulness goes away, you are gone. So it's like that. But if you really wanted to put some in words, in my simple words, I don't think so. It's too complex. It's it's a it's a simple yet complex. It's our understanding of subject. And mindfulness is, as I said, is always with us. It's a basic human ability to be present and being aware of where we are, what are we doing, are we overtly reactive or overwhelmed? It's what going on around us. So I would say it's just simply to be aware of what's happening in your body, in your mind, and in the present moment. And the lens you have to see those things is a curiosity and kindness. So these are the two eyes which look at the present moment, because if you remove these two eyes, then the different eyes comes in picture, or different lenses just comes, or different filters started to come and see the things in real. So mindfulness is being aware of your present moment, and what lens you wearing is more curiosity and kindness.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's the how I put mindfulness is.
Perfect. While talking about lenses and being present, right? I remember even last night somebody just told me that it's really hard for me to focus on certain things. Even when doing my research for this podcast, initially my mind was going somewhere else. I have my phone with me. There are messages that come along, and come on, like this generation itself, the attention span and the tools that we have created all around us, they create a lot of distractions, right? uh, if we can ask, or if we can give certain practices to be mindfulness, to be mindful in the present, and in the age of this complexity of the tools that we have, and a lot of distractions that we have, how do we do that? While answering that, Manish, I would also like to ask, somebody told me that no matter what, it's so funny, but no matter what you give me, what advice you give me, it's really hard for me to adhere to that advice, because I'm my own, you know like, I would like to do things at my own pace. It's really hard for me to adhere to advice. So if you can advise on that advice as well, that would be great.
See, what you just mentioned, Harsh, that yes, that what is happening in today's world, it's not happening in today's world, it's constantly happening. It's evolution, and the object of distractions were always there. Okay, even if you go in old mythological uh, scriptures, you know, there are apsaras which are distracting the rishis who are doing meditation. Okay, so it's not that distractions were not there. There were always distractions. You read the story of Parashuram. He has got distracted by the demons, or distracted by animals or insect, but the you know or the jungle creatures. So there is always a distraction. So now today we don't have jungles or forests or demons or insects or apsaras. So we have these tools which distract us.
We still have apsaras, but
So now, and I give you a very generic example. Like you are sitting on your desk. Okay? It happens to all of us. You're sitting on a desk, blankly staring at your computer screen. You're physically present, but mentally you are checked out. You have no idea what you're supposed to be working on. Even if you did, you don't have energy or motivation to do it. Okay. Your mind sometimes feels foggy, disconnected, and you find yourself mindlessly scrolling on your social media, clicking aimlessly around in the internet. You don't know what you wanted to see, you don't know what you wanted to hear, just mindlessly clicking up and down. And throughout the day, you go through these motions of routine without any real awareness, or I would say intention. There are a lot of people you see sitting in and just going. They have no awareness, no intention, how much time is passed, why are they doing that, what they wanted to achieve out of it, what satisfaction are they getting. you know Not only social media, you see, you eat food. How many of time you just eat your lunch and shove it inside? Just the aim is to fill your stomach and don't even realize that you are filled in stomach. you know what happens when you engage in conversation? You are totally disengaged. You don't listen to others. You just have your own pre-recorded agenda. With the moment you're waiting the other person to stop, even we sometimes don't even wait for the other person to stop, and we start rattling our agenda. You sometimes complete your task without even remembering how you did that task, or you read a book without realizing how many pages I've gone through, and then you go, oh yeah, I don't realize how many pages, let me go back, because your mind is gone. So isn't that look like that, you're moving through life as if someone else has possessed you? Mm? You're just without any sense of direction. Then I call this as a state of zombiness. You feel numb, you feel disconnected, you are disengaged with your own self. Okay. Uh, and also sometimes you're disengaged with the world around you. You don't know what's happening. and you might not even realize how much time has passed and what you are doing throughout your day. So the sense of real awareness and purpose, if you don't have, then it's a very unhappy state. You have some, and you see, you record yourself when you are doing, when you are eating aimlessly, when you are replying without listening, or you are scrolling your social media, you're just smiling. Record yourself and see the 80% of time, the videos or things you're doing, your face has sadness, your face has anger, you have some, and if you are not thinking, then you're resentment, and you have baggage of something from the past. Is that true?
I think so. I think so.
And these are the thing, because most of the time we are dwelling not in the present, we are somewhere else. Okay, we are either in a past, or we are uh, thinking about past. Oh, it was this happened, I had this talk with someone, he didn't said me right or wrong, or this thing I should have said something like this. And then tomorrow, if this person comes in, then I will talk to him like this, and if he says something like this, I will say something like this. And you are thinking about how difficult the future could be possibly. You're not thinking that next person will come and he will say a very nice thing to me, and I will say a very nice thing to him, and things will be okay. No, no. If this person will come, I will say this thing, and I know this person will say this thing. I'm already ready for his answers. The brain is, you know, expanding that negative thought to a like a rubber band.
Mm.
And now, how much? Now you ask that you cannot change yourself. So how much you want to change yourself? All of us, the Atomic Habit. There's a most selling book,
Yeah.
which means that all of us wants to change ourselves. The self-help books are selling. If they wouldn't have been selling, then I wouldn't have believed that we don't wanted to change ourselves. All of us wanted to. Your this podcast also a sign that people wish to change, and you are giving them the food for changing themselves. But the point is, you can change your hairstyle, you can change your house, you can change your clothes, you can even change your bank account. But if you don't change how you think, you can't change your life conditions.
Hmm. But Manish, adding on to that, right? There are two things that I got from this, which I would question you for. Endless scrolling and being a zombie, right? What if they don't have work, for example, right? Like jobs, or even sometimes I find myself that work is not everything, of course, right? You find your passion somewhere else. For some people it's sports, but some things are not accessible for them, right? So what do we suggest to them? Maybe that endless scrolling, maybe that zombiness has come from, you know just life itself not presenting them the opportunities to do something else. And is that can we put that blame on the opportunities not coming in, or we not seeking or going towards these opportunities? Because a lot of times, it comes that I just don't have anything to do, so why should I not just scroll? Or why should I, like, how do I waste my time? So this instrument has become a pastime. It was supposed to be the most productive. It's still really, really productive, of course. Like, a lot of things happen here, but for a lot of people it has become something to pass their time. So that is my question to you. How do we avoid that, and what can these people seek to do?
So each person, each tool, each gadget has both side. Money has both side. It can buy you food, and it can buy you poison. It can also buy you food. Now it depends what you want to buy with that object. uh, knife can you can use to steal something from others, and you can also use to heal someone as a doctor. Now you use that knife as for what? You want to cut someone to steal something, or you want to cut someone to heal someone. So each of the object in this world has two sides. Now it's all depend on our manifestation, our awareness of life. How do we want to explore those things? What beliefs, what practices that give us new ways that might lead to a new insight? Okay. There can be a productive use of thing, and there could be destructive use of thing. So now mindfulness involves in this observing your thoughts. I'm not saying that it's productive. I'm not labeling anything. It's no, and also mindfulness is not also about excessive thinking. Okay, it's about observing your thoughts without getting caught up with them, and cultivating sense of calm and clarity. When you know that, oh, I'm get lost now, let me bring it back, my thoughts, let me use this time more productively. Can i can i instead of just scrolling, can I write a page of what I have so far scrolled? Can I put a pager about my life purpose? Can I write something which I found it very interesting? Now these things require effort.
And people are
And
not ready to do that effort.
yes,
In
that
Yeah,
because they are no motivation to do that.
yeah.
Okay, they have not able to manifest their life. They're just living in that zombie, and zombie cannot manifest anything. It's driven by desire only.
Hmm.
And happiness becomes sometime a desire all the time, that what you wanted to do, my aim is to live happy. And then if I calculate your overall life, how much time you have lived happily, and if you really happiness was the only motive to live in this world, then then the whole thing would be a more consumption and desire based. Not Nobody would create anything then. If
Uh,
everybody is out to consume, who will create and do creative thinking? So now mindfulness then allows you to being aware of your strength, being aware of your challenges, not being afraid of them, but you understanding them well, that these are my this thing challenges. And do not feel competitive from others, do not envy from others. Most time we see Facebook, oh, these guys are traveling to Spain, Turkey, this thing. I'm stuck for last 2 years in India, not able to travel. I have not even gone to Haridwar, for that matter, or I'm not gone to Nasik or Pune or something. See, I'm stuck in my job. So resentment, it doesn't give you much happiness, it gives you more dissatisfaction, more or less. You see, oh, he's, and even as a creator, you think, oh, his reel is 20,000 views, 50,000. My reel, I have written the same content. Why it's not my content is not working? Imagine. So the resentment is not only by with the common guys who consuming. Even the creators feel this kind
Yeah.
of thought process. So it's a natural. It's natural.
And we'll talk about, very well said, firstly, and we'll talk about like all these voices that come, that negativity that comes. But what I gathered from this is, and I think it's very insightful to people also who are listening. um, get a lot of these things of, I'm just bored, I'm scrolling, I don't have any opportunities in my life. It's as Manish said, it's a zombie life that you're living. I think mindfulness there can really help. um, People also say that advices are not for me. I do it on my own pace. I don't know why I can't listen to that advices, but I would still say the same thing. You are living a zombie life, and it's not good. Yeah, maybe record yourself while scrolling, or maybe record yourself while you do certain things. Maybe that's where you will find, you know this is not me, this is not what I was made for. um you know Going on apps, switching between apps and apps and apps, going on YouTube, going, different ways just to entertain yourself and avoid the reality that is there around you. And maybe some people enjoy that. But here's where mindfulness can really help you. And I would suggest that whatever we talk about, you be present. Because by me being present here and listening to Manish, I have learned a lot. So I think just being present, I know the attention span is so low, but by just being present and maybe listening to a few topics that correlate to you, and that's why I also like to bring out real life examples which people are facing, so that maybe you can correlate, and then uh, you can see what advice really helps you. Because yes, the self-help books are selling because of a reason. you know I have read Atomic Habits, and believe me, it changed my life. It really did. It put my life on track. I think mentally I didn't feel that great before Atomic Habits happened in my life. The moment I read that, the moment I actually put in an effort, as you would say, to adhere to that, is when things started happening for me. My mental space started clear, just being clear, started reading books. So I think um, that self-help and talking to experts who know about this is always helpful. So be present, be mindful, while we do talk about these apps. And if we are on these apps, just a question, a small question here, like with the rise of these mindfulness app, I wouldn't name anyone, but with the rise of them and online courses, do you think the technology here enhances, or because you've said that, yeah, it can be productive, it can be destructive, but do you think the technology enhances or detracts from the authenticity and effectiveness of a mindfulness practice? And can digital mindfulness replicate the experience of in-person guided practice? Because I ask this because the digital practices of creating an e-classroom, we wouldn't say failed miserably, but somewhere in the concept of India did fail, and then we are going back to uh, the physical classrooms, physics wala or anybody, so where does mindfulness apps and mindfulness being digital, does it enhance or detract from the authenticity and effectiveness?
Okay, I've been asked this question many a time, and I always feel that everything is has a utility of its own. Now, we also run Mindfulness Foundation teacher training program, where the possibility of people who join us from all over the world, all over the countries, is physically sometimes not possible to make people travel to one place, and being present on those online classes and delivering classes. Even sometimes I take classes myself. I go for my teacher classes, and I use these apps, especially a Zoom app where I can meet with these. This help us being present sometimes differently. uh, so these are, there are good and bad for both. One is that how are you using those as an enabler? Again, I come to that point, and I feel everything has a purpose, and if we are using this as a purpose, it helps us. Now, if you want to learn mindfulness, definitely there is no replacement of physical presence of a teacher and a student, like conventional style. That cannot be replaced. Even as a doctor, imagine that you taking a medical advice from a doctor over an app or a phone. Vis-a-vis, you are present with the doctor in his clinic, and he's touching you and feeling, and how are you feeling, and what difference it makes. It make a huge lot of difference when you go visit a doctor. He sees you, he touches you, he heals you by his touch probably. And having advice on a doctor over an app or something, and okay, give me this advice, and it's please eat this medicine like this. So sometimes it's not possible that you can travel, then those help. But you have to see what opportunity you have, what how much you are invested in the subject. If you are really invested 100%, there is no replacement, as you said, of the physical classes. It's more impactful, it delivers
I
more.
think it
So
makes
that
sense,
is that make
and I'm
sense?
a strong believer on physical activities. I mean, whenever a client comes to us, also be it a personal or a corporate client, we definitely do talk to them about the fact that uh, having it in person is way more effective, way more effective. But of course, the opportunity lies with you. I have seen people doing wonderful stuff by just studying online, being online. These are enablers, I would say. Online classes and online apps are enablers. They, as atomic habits, they are like, they're trying to set a habit for you. They're trying to enable you to do something at your own convenience. Today I have the Calm app, for example, and it enabled me to go into meditation, let's say, hypothetically. And then of course, like, when I'm in for that,
Hmm.
I go for personal experiences, and that uh, enhances me a lot as well. So I think I would consider them as enablers, and you very well said that, wherever the opportunity arises, you should take it in life or anything. whatever you want to do, you should be present, you should be focused, and do it. Be it going to even a concert, I would say, or or something. Don't miss out on opportunities. Do something that you want to do. Perfect. Let's go a little bit deeper into mindfulness. I don't think we have quite answered that, because we did get the definition from you, which is, of course, words don't mean anything, but what when a person is being mindful, you said they're being aware. Firstly, if is mindfulness just meditation, right? Because a lot of people associate it with that. And what is it about being aware? Like, I, I think most of the people listening to this would know what awareness is and how to be aware. It might sound like a silly question, but I would like to hear from the expert itself, so that no question is avoided. Uh, what exactly is to be aware of your situation, of your and what and is mindfulness just meditation, is what I would ask.
So let me start with what is being aware. Okay. Very common example of awareness is that, do you drive?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
people who, or you travel. So sometimes you're traveling and you sit in a car or a bus or a train, or you realize that you are aware, you're looking at outside, and suddenly zoom, the ship shuts, and you don't realize that you have reached some destination, and you don't have absolute zero recollection what happened in between. Just it's coming zup zup in between, that yeah, I have some visual awareness of this happened, but I don't know how I reached. Probably I was slept in this, in middle that time. I don't know what time happened. A lot of time it happens in plane, and you feel maybe you were sleeping at that particular time. The simplest example is while driving. Now some people can think, okay, I would have slept probably, but simplest example is driving. While you're driving, you're not sleeping for sure. You're driving. But you don't realize that you are reached from one point to point B, and only when you on a signal, or a green signal, red signal, whatever you are, you stop there and you realize, oh, I don't know how I came to this point from point. And that's the example of not being aware that what happened. Like you are eating food. You start a pack of chips. You and you're munching, and then you put your hand, you realize there's no chips inside. And you don't realize I finished the whole pack, man. Did it
Not
happen to you
recently,
anytime?
because quite strict on the diet, but yes, definitely. I mean, not just chips, but any food. And something is on or something is going on, and you're not mindful of eating, then yes, of course.
So awareness is that every moment you are taking, you are aware that what you are doing. It involves in observing your thoughts. It's not about excessive thinking. It's just about observing without getting caught up. You and I have a sense that, oh, I'm doing this. This is what basic definition for awareness is, that you are aware what you are doing. And then when I said the lens, what you are doing, now what are you doing? Now, after one level of awareness, then we start adding on data on top of it. Now here I stop before, because it will get a little complex from this point onward, that what data are you adding onto it. So mindfulness is just being aware. If I say anything, I'm aware that I'm talking to you. I'm not aware that what question you are going to ask me and how I respond to it. I'm I know what I know. So what a question you will ask, I'm aware. I will think for a moment what this question processes in my brain, and not reactively answer, but I feel I respond to your question, and that's the level of what is simple
Perfect.
awareness.
I would like to go a little bit deeper into this awareness and meditation as well. I don't remember the quote exactly, but I remember the reference in. I don't remember the name as well, but he was wearing glasses, right? And somebody asked this guy that, is mindfulness just meditation? And he removed his lenses, and he said that, you know this frame is my conscience, and then I remove that, that is meditation, and then I accumulate everything and put it back in, and that is like the contemplation of what I have learned from the meditation about myself, and that is being mindful. So if we can also answer the fact that is it just meditation, that because meditation is like a spiritual awakening also, I would say. You look at yourself and you look at, it's just a calm moment that people don't really enjoy um, in these days, because a lot of the past events or the future events or what has happened, what will happen, keeps going on in our minds, right? So that meditation part helps us relax and blank ourselves. That's what I think it should do for us, and makes us look at us from a broader perspective. And to accumulate that, I would say, is mindfulness. Like, would you agree to that, or what is it in your opinion?
See, everybody See, everybody has their own definition, and I see meditations very differently. I've been meditating from a very early part of my life, and there are different kind of meditation that you cannot give one generic definition for meditation is like this. Okay? There are insight meditation, there are focus meditation, there are breath meditation. What is meditation? What is meditation is basically bringing focus to one thing, what you are doing. Okay, that's called meditate. Please meditate on your work, which means that just bringing focus on whatever you are doing. In almost each and every culture, meditation techniques are there, be it all religion, all way of culture, not religious cultures, but religious rituals. All sort of cultures have meditative practices. Meditation is a practice through which one develop a different qualities, and including mindfulness. And mindfulness meditation, when we say, we specifically separate ourselves when we're talking about mindful meditations. Okay, it's not about different meditation. I don't want to go into. I have given enough podcast on that. What kind of meditations are there? Okay, so in particular, this mindfulness is a technique for which we focus our mind on a particular object or a thought or an activity, such as breathing or training brain awareness. It helps us to achieve slightly more clarity and detach ourselves to, like clearing our cache. It's like a brain. It's like a computer. Imagine that your computer is full. It has a full of cache. It has certain memory, and your hard drive is accessing data from the cache memory. For your audience, just tell, cache memory is a very small storage of data which brain doesn't want it to where the computer don't want to access the main drive, and keep certain information which you regularly use in your cache. But that becomes your biases, that becomes your fears, that can be anything which you are accessing very commonly. Okay, and main benefit of this is that it emotionally clean your cache, which makes you more stable. It makes me more receptive, more open to newer things than recycling what has been you've been consuming in past. Okay, and that is meditation is one of the method which help you to live that mindfully and develop a skill of mindfulness. Also, I tell you, mindfulness is meditation is not about becoming a different person or new person or a better person. It's not about you know, about having calming experience or revelations or anything. You know it's i think it's about training awareness and getting a healthy sense of your
Also,
perspective. It's also not about running away from your thoughts. A lot of people think, stop thoughts. It's not about running away from thoughts. You can only run away from your thought once in your lifetime.
when is
And
that?
when brain, when
Advanced.
brain stops working, when
Very,
heart
very
stops
well
working.
said, actually, because I'll also give like a real life example. I knew a person very, very close to us, and they were facing a lot of these issues that you're talking about, and they started. mindful meditations, they would call it. And at that point, I wouldn't understand what it meant. And there was a 360-degree change in their attitude, like anger, or they're just more present, I would say, instead of thinking about the future and negative thoughts affecting them. So, so that really helped. Like I've seen this example in real life, and of course, like Sadhguru talks about it. A lot of people talk about it. There's Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. He talks about it. So there's a lot of purpose in that. While talking about Eckhart Tolle, he does talk about, and we also talk about in this podcast, that what has happened throughout our journey is this gradual evolution of thinking, and that has made humans overthink. Overthinking is the term for this generation and the previous one. So there is a lot of not only unnecessary thinking that generates these thoughts, and in many cases these non-existent problems that are not even there, such as when you lie awake at night and in bed start worrying or something, or even in the daytime you daydreaming, but now negatively daydreaming. It generates a lot of unnecessary unhappiness. So people don't realize that this this unhappiness gives a significant of their lives. Uh, by when we talk about neuroscience as well, as you talked about, like how neuroscience is connected to this, there would be something, because our brain is generating so many negative thoughts by overthinking. And this was a poll that I also did um, on our story before, that these self talks that you do to yourself, or there's this voice in your mind that talks to you, right, in a third person, second person, it doesn't matter. Is it usually negative or positive? And 80% of that was, it's negative. It has affected my relationships, because I overthink them. And this voice is something that overthinks it. I don't overthink it, but this voice that is in my brain is overthinking. This the job that I'm getting, this voice in my brain that is overthinking. So firstly, I would like to ask, how do you stop this voice? Like how do you calm your nerves? How are you more present in thinking? Because in some ways it happens that, okay, I don't want this voice to affect me. Why am I being this stupid? And then the voice comes again. So and this is really like a lot of people facing it, because when we put out this poll, like a lot of people were facing this. How do we stop this self-talk voice, make it more positive, maybe? And also in neuroscience, right, like this overthinking might affect our body as well. Like it has to affect all these negative thoughts coming in, it has to affect something in our brain or our body. So if you can just elucidate on that.
Wonderful. So there are multiple questions in your question. So, so firstly, when we meditate or when we do mindful meditation, we understand ourselves. I cannot see outside if my glasses are dirty. Okay. So first thing is that I have to clear my own glasses before I see the world is dirty. Because the kind of glasses I'm seeing the world, if those are dirty, then the whole world is dirty for me. So first thing is to clean my own glasses. Am I wearing some colored glasses? So understanding my own self first. And that requires an empathy and compassion. And when you see yourself more empathetically, you are non-judgmental about yourself, you're self-compassionate. And then your thoughts become more clearer. Because if you are putting a certain color water into a different water, you're already impacting the environment with that thought. Say for instance, you are very angry and you go to a meeting or to office. The environment doesn't seem to be nice to you that particular time. But imagine you are very happy and you go to office. The environment look very cheerful. So which means that what kind of glasses we are wearing, we change the environment. And human habit is such that we try to, one, go to an environment and want to make ourselves comfortable in an environment. We want to make environment how we are feeling. So if I'm angry, I wanted to agitate the environment so it fits my emotion. So I will shout, I will do something, I will create environment which is equal to my brain level. So I am feeling comfortable that I have agitated the environment. So I am agitated. There are other way of thinking that let me calm myself and go to an environment, a better environment, and calm myself in that environment. So I'm mixed with that environment well. Meditation works in a scientific term called RAS, called reticular activating system in brain. It's a responsible for our ability to pay attention and notice our patterns and habits. And this reticular activating system, it's a miraculous organ, and very few people speak about it. Okay. Now, when we meditate, it actually then creates a new synaptic connections, which structure believed to play a role in many functions, including your wakefulness, your sleep attention, your behavioral modification, the filtration of your information. It's kind of a portal which almost, where from that portal, almost every information passes through in your brain. And then areas bring attention to the relevant information, which may be a background voice. Now imagine you are angry, but you go, and this background voice is telling you, listen, hey, you are angry, man, you should not take this outside. Now you are, that is awareness, that is a filter of mindfulness. But if you are angry and I say, oh, I wanted to be angry, who parked this parking in my parking, this my parking? But when you are happy, you say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's all, everybody park it, please park, let me find another parking there. So you are not agitated, you don't go onto a toll bridge where three cars are standing and you start honking, please get away, I have to reach office, you are honking. So your RAS calming you down and telling you this, your background noise is actually spoiling, you don't have to react to it now. And that's what mindfulness do, that with awareness. The filtration system improves. It's like a dirty water, when you put in a filter, the filter takes away all the particles which are not useful. And that is RAS doing, and meditation activates that system. So very important, this is scientific information. And that's actually a messenger between how you said conscious and subconscious or
That
unconscious
answer your
mind.
yes,
And that is,
but
if you
Manish, like
activate
how
that RAS, then you can see what is
it
happening in
sounds
subconscious mind,
fantastic.
which you are
You know,
not taking
like
in your conscious
we've
mind.
seen,
Did
at
that
least
answer
I've
your question,
seen
sir?
real life examples of that. Um, when people become more aware of their emotions, they're more conscious of what they're saying, or what their current mindset is, and if they want to be away from that situation, and is it just the background noise or the background they want because you're right, like people want the environment to be same as their brain frequency. Whatever the frequency of their brain is, the environment should be like that. But as we talk about neuroscience, like, have we seen particular examples where, you know it really really works, like this meditation part of it, really works to um, incorporate the system in you, that today, if I practice this over a month to whatever the time period is, or practice it daily, it really affects my brain. Have you seen that?
See, there are multiple studies which are available online by various universities, researchers, scholar. Even if you go to Mindful Science Center website, you will find multiple such uh, scientific papers which we have posted. And each person is very unique and different. Okay, your emotional baggage may not be same as my emotional baggage. Your past conditioning may not be the same conditioning as somebody else conditioning is. So this medicine, I will not say medicine, this mindfulness may work differently with different people. It has not a similar impact on everything in a similar manner, because every person has a very different composition. There, even if a two brothers, or two brothers who are living and born at the same time, are the twins in the same family, same environment, same school, same college, They can behave very, very differently to different things in their life. So yes, science has done enough studies, and those are the part which I'm referring to, behavioral or mind wandering issues, and seeing a lot of
Yeah,
science
yeah,
in
that is true.
behavioral shift
It's a
when we it's a very early science. Scientific studies on this has started very recently. So it's a very, very nascent stages of scientific studies being done. In fact, till 2008, I believe there were only about 20, 30 papers were published about on mindfulness. And now it's about hundreds of papers started to publish. So it's very recent what has started to function. So I will believe that in time to come, more such studies will come. It's a long-term studies. It is found that yes, it changes. A brain structure changes. A lot of scientific studies have seen the regular meditators' brain structure changes. The brain has a more gray matter and less white matter. The thinking pattern shifts. They are able to connect with themselves and others changes. Their taste changes. Now they can taste things much better. Their happiness index changes. They start to feel much more easy in this world. So these are the this not one example but hundreds of such
I
example,
think
and that's why the mindfulness becomes such a buzzword for
Okay.
the world, that
As you said,
this is what
I mean,
actually we have to
neuroscience
see
and
things from
neuroscientists
this
and
lens.
doctors specifically have
So I
posted
think
a
that
lot of research
I
very,
would
very
stop at
recently. I
that
was
point.
also going through this. And that's why I asked you as well, because uh, really good patterns of being mindful meditation, and even being aware other things that you do really helps your brain. They have seen changes in the brain, the neuroplasticity. I think what it is called, I'm not too sure, but yes, definitely, like if anybody wants, I can provide the research papers for this, or Manish can provide the research papers, because I have read a lot of this, and that's why we are here talking about it, because I'm a strong proponent of this, because science also backs it. There is a criticism of it also. We'll come come at the end of the podcast for these criticisms, but most definitely okay. Just lastly. Before we go on to the professional side of it, just talking about managers, leaders a little bit, and then we'll move on to criticisms after that. Uh, I asked you the question about how to calm the voice inside your head. If we can just elaborate on that a little bit more, because most people want to hear about that as well. This voice that comes across and troubles them, and then they have to fight against it, and then it comes again. So, what is the practice that you would suggest that can help in that?
So, firstly, first level of awareness that there is a voice. A lot of people don't even know that there is a voice which is talking to them. And whose this voice is this? Is that your voice, or somebody else's voice, or somebody has possessed you, his or her voice, or where this voice is coming from? And to listen to this voice also is not a bad idea. What it is saying, you don't have to react or act to it. That are you listening to that voice? Most of the time, you are not even listening to that voice. Or are there only one voice, or there are multiple voice, like in movies happen? One uh, one angel and a demon voice is coming. He says, "Do it, do it, don't do it, don't do it." Okay. So what voice to listen and what not to listen? Okay. And do I listen, or should I do something else? Not listening to both of these, and demon and angel, or devil and an angel, or I just do whatever I think like doing. That's my free will. Okay. Or I have third voice or somebody else I have to listen on top of it. So a lot of questions comes to not only one, that which voice to listen. Okay. And so one is that just been observing that these are the voices, first level of entry point, that there are voices. Are there two voices, or there are multiple voices? Are only one demon, or there are four or five of them? Or okay, or there are one angel, or there are multiple angels, and then there is any boss of this demon, and angels also gives voice after that, but they give their voice. Okay. So firstly, being aware of that, first level. You see, a lot of these voices just goes down just by listening to them. It's like when we were young, they said, "Don't go in dark. There are ghosts in the dark." And And I remember, so that I have a friend, I went recently visited him in US, and this boy is afraid of in a movie called Chucky. Chucky comes with a knife and is a doll and comes, and so everybody make him afraid. Chucky will come. Listen, do this. Chucky will come. And this boy is very young, about 4 years, and he was very, oh, Chucky coming. He's just afraid. So one day he said, "Okay, call Chucky now. Call Chucky. I'm ready for Chucky." And nobody said Chucky's coming after that. Okay. So firstly, be ready to accept that voice, that some voice is coming, because most of the time we are afraid that certain voices are coming. I don't want to listen to this voice, and this big voice becomes too loud. So one is level awareness of these voices, and what are these voices are all about. Are they telling you something? And secondly, so when you see these voices, they are actually your desires or your fears or your biases. These are the people who are talking at the back. It's nobody else. It's your pre-recorded voice, which has happened when you miss your flight or when you had a fight with somebody. Oh, you will miss the flight. Oh, okay, run, run, run quickly. Or you had a fight like this earlier. This is your pre-recorded data which is playing back. It's nobody telling you. There's no demon or angel sitting on that. We just something. And then you know, okay, these are like a soap bubbles coming, and you just observe them. You know, puck, puck. They just they will become small and bigger, bigger, and then they will go and small. So one being aware these thoughts are happening. Secondly, we also sometimes have a very bad habit that I have to be in control. You know, on the table I have to control the talk, on the business I have to control the business, on a road I have to control the road. You know, this control freakness has come into us, that I need to control. Surrendering and just letting go of this need to control, and accepting things even if they are not comfortable, and that allows these all these noises to go down, that you are accepting. Oh, okay, I know this is danger. I'm ready for that Chucky to come. There is a danger. Chucky may come probably, but I'm ready for Chucky at that particular moment. A lot of learning from this small boy. I know that could come possibly. If a 4 year old doesn't know that it may come, it may not come, but now I know it's uncomfortable, but I'm ready for it. Now, what he can control, he cannot control Chucky coming or not coming. He can control his situation to deal with Chucky. Probably he's prepared himself for dealing with it. So, when we practice mindfulness, we become more attuned to our thoughts and emotions and sensation, and allowing us to observe them without getting caught up with that noises at the back. This is a one simple way of listening to this awareness. And awareness help us to recognize that what are we holding so tightly, any particular resentment,
That's
we are
beautiful.
avoiding any
Uh,
reality,
I
and
feel
instead
like
we choose
these,
to surrender and accept
I
the things
somewhat
as they
agree
are,
with
and I'm
you
ready for Chucky.
in this surrender, um,
Okay.
surrender to them. You know, like I I feel like people who have negative voices also, it is the reality. You know, it's you, it's your unfiltered voice. uh, Making it more negative is also not nice, but observing, as you said, is the first step. You know, and maybe there is some reality to it that you're trying to avoid, and you know, it helps you. Most of the times it has helped me, you know, be it positive, be it negative. That observation of just being on top and understanding, like, okay, this is the situation, this is what the voice is telling me, maybe I'm avoiding this for a certain reason, and you know, surrendering myself to it is absolutely important. And that Chucky story, I I think people will love it. You know, because you don't know what is coming, and you have to surrender yourself. Perfect. Okay. I think this answers my personal side of it. We'll take just about like 15-20 minutes to talk about the professional side of this, since we do work with only corporates, and this podcast is usually meant for personal side of it. But since we are catering to corporates as well, would love to understand how corporates and specifically managers can use mindfulness in their day-to-day activities, and what benefits it can have for them also.
So So now let's relate to, because audience is listening to this Chucky story and relate to surrender or thinking. Imagine I'll give an example to this situation. Let's see how mindfulness works. Like there's a challenging situation at work. Most of us has maybe a challenging project meeting, and you might feel overwhelmed with your negative. Probably you may have negative thinking happening. Okay. Now this thought of surrendering to that or mindfulness involves acknowledging whatever is going to come. And if negative comes in that manner, then you acknowledge that feedback. Okay. Take that, oh, really, I'm listening with that open thought. I'm not defending it. I'm not denying it. I'm not offensive. No, 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 this is wrong. You have also done this thing. Somebody says, listen, this is not right as a team member. Yeah, and then one night, because this is bad, so I have done, you also have done this thing. 7 times I've seen you doing the same thing. You deny it. You become defensive. And first thing is denying. You no, 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 I've never done it. You, and then become defensive. You also did it. Third, you become offensive. There's all the time you have a heated conversation, and that's the time most of the relationship derailed. And your also development goes derailed in an organization. Instead, you surrender yourself, acknowledge the feedback. Okay, I'm taking a feedback. Probability is that uh, that maybe this is right. Let's evaluate how can we fix it together. You also have experience. I also have experience. Let's see. I hope that probably this is. I'm not agreeing. I'm not denying. But can we see it little more deeply? What is making wrong now? This inner voice where it also comes in play. Then you can calm your inner voice, that your inner critic, that your inner voice is your inner critic. Is that inner critic is a mentally well or emotionally well-being is there of this inner critic, because it's also not well or could be very well. So when this inner critic becomes too powerful, it's very well, so means he gives more negative noise to you. All the time you have this habit of criticizing. Every meeting you come, I present, you criticize, you punch hole in my project, this thing you. So this inner critic is not giving that data on the time. Probably you have already prepared yourself to respond to this person in your head, and you are
Mm,
unmindfully not even aware of that. You are just rattling out the things which you have thought, but the
mm.
person not even have said things something like that, but because you have, the inner critic has already told you that this person is going to say. Person is said, listen, I have not even said these things, you are saying so many things to me. No, no, I know this is the next thing going to come from you. So so mindfulness becomes a very powerful tool. By practicing mindfulness and meditating, you learn how to quiet this constant chatter and find a moment of peace and stillness and calmness in that particular moment when there's challenge. And don't allow this negative or self-critical thoughts, mm, to then spoil your inner calm. It is possible. Okay. And so, you know, this, like one situation that you are going to talk on a stage, not that your inner nervousness, your inner self-doubt. I will forget my all thing. I will going to mess it up now.
Yeah,
Last time I also messed up the whole thing. I'm so incompetent in dealing with these kind of people. Mindfulness just allows to, what I know, I know. I'm prepared what I could prepare. And I'm ready to deal with this thing. So these then allow your thought process to have your negative voices go down, not getting make you more overwhelmed. And then just mindfulness, like taking a 3 deep breath. Okay. And then being sensational on your breath. Suddenly you do that. Try doing that. You may be thinking something. Just do one deep breath with me. Take it one at your own pace, not follow me, and just try to do that. You see, suddenly you will notice that these thoughts and emotions which are arising and you're getting caught up with them, suddenly they are released. They are like they're like a small
absolutely. I
cockroaches. They
think
run away and then hide somewhere else.
Mr. Andrew Haberman also talked
And so
about
with
this.
mindfulness, you can calm your voice and
He's
approach
Stanford's
with greater
uh,
clarity and confidence.
health specialist, I would call I would call it. He's also into neuroscience. But meditation, he talks a lot about meditation, sauna, fitness, body, all of these things, and how meditation can release these negative thoughts itself, and he does talk about a lot of neuroscience on that. So definitely believe that breath work is absolutely important. Some major part of meditation is also breath work and focus, of course. um, Calms your heart rate down. There's like a direct connection to breath work and your body. So it's undeniable how much, like, if you're running, for example, and you can control your breath work, I think you can run longer for sure. Because your heart rate is down, your heart is not pumping as much. It's the same with anxiety. The If you can control your breath work for a longer period of time, the less your anxiety will be. And people can be anxious with different reasons, of course. Not to elucidate that this is the only way that you can do it, but it really helps. It releases those thoughts. And while doing research for this topic also, one thing that stuck by me is these negative thoughts, especially in jobs. We assume that it's going to be awful, and the prediction is an illusion. For example, losing a job, we should always give five reasons why we won't lose it, and then five reasons that even if we did lose it, what would be an advantage for me. So now we have gone from thinking that it's definitely going to happen to maybe it will, and even if it does, it's okay. And that's how you should treat life, I would say. It really helps in a lot of ways. It always creates a silver lining on the cloud, because it's your thinking, as Manish has particularly said. Thinking, positive thinking, positive intelligence, positive thinking, emotional intelligence. Everything is intelligence, and how you become intelligent is through your thoughts itself. So having these kind of thought process, instead of just that if I lose this job, then what is going to happen to me? I'm just going to lose my life. There's nothing else in life for me. I don't think life makes sense for me. Instead of that, I think this thing that I have also talked about, five things that if you lose the job, what would happen, and five things, maybe if it happens, the advantage of it is a good way to look at things, and questioning the belief that you are the only one to do it and there's only one way to do it is also absolutely important. Manish, as we were talking about conflicts, in meeting rooms and boardrooms, with managers, with feedbacks, between silos, between different teams, we experience it a lot. We do a lot of conflict resolution, and mindfulness can also help, because a lot of our coaches have said emotional intelligence and mindfulness helps in conflict resolution a lot. And just by that, there's an old story about two people coming in front of a judge, and in this, a judge being your boss or anybody, and he says that, they both tell their story, and he says that you're right, but you're also right. Right, and then they're just both confused that how in a court of law can we both be right. And so does this question that, this mindless notion to settle disputes between this way or that way, or a compromise can be reached, can a win-win situation be sought out, and how can mindfulness help with that?
Interesting. So, see, the conflicts are the part of our day-to-day work. It's not only in workplace, not in a family. It's on the road. It's on everywhere where and that's why there's a civil society which demarks with the rules and regulation how we function in this world. Certain things are understood as a norm. Certain things are not understood as a norm. Say, for instance, I'm giving a very rough example. Certain things you are allowed to bring in this country, which was allowed at one time, which was legal at one time, but suddenly it is decided no more it's allowed to be brought in the company, and suddenly it becomes illegal. And if you bring them, you can be penalized for it. So the person would say, yeah, few days back it was legal. Now suddenly how can it become illegal? So sometimes certain rules are okay with certain things, and certain rules are not okay with certain things, because things keep changing and evolving in this today's world. And change is one thing which is constant, and rest of everything is not constant. So change is happening. Now, accepting things and moving on allows uh, a sense of moving forward towards newer things and possibilities, because we are exploring newer things. And conflict is natural and bound to happen, because what lens you are looking at things, and how are you addressing the solutions in life. So mindfulness allows you to focus on solutions, okay, and zombiness focuses on blame. Okay, now, if, say for instance, that organization is struggling with low sales, okay, so one thing is, let's sit down, discuss, and find why are we not able to do that. Then the
Of
other
course, the
solution
first
is,
one.
let's sit down and find the blame, who is responsible for not happening the sales. What would you
Doesn't
take a
happen in
course, which is
personal
right
life
and which is
also,
wrong?
I
Tell
feel.
me. So, so that, but most of the time doesn't happen in an organization. I've seen most of the time it is how we find, let's figure out who is the person who's not allowing this to happen. We found to blame someone instead of finding a solution and learning what mistakes are we doing. We finding doing a fault finding exercise. You never do the solution finding exercise.
Hmm.
Have you heard this word, solution finding exercise? You must have heard of fault finding exercise. So when you find a fault, you will find definitely a person. Fault doesn't happen by its own. So somebody has to be nailed. Somebody has to be crucified. And the fear is already normal to have in teams, that who will get crucified. I don't know if this is my fault, this was okay or this was not okay. Like your judge said, this is also okay and this was, so this judge can say this is also not okay. So
Hmm.
similar is that, are we trying to blame in organizations? Most of the time everything is finding fault. Okay, root cause analysis. See the terminology. Okay, yes, I'm not saying no, do not find the cause, but also find a solution. Most of the time, all the meetings are finding cause, and less amount of time is spent in finding solutions, because we are so much bogged down. And once we found fault, those people already become defensive or offensive, or uh, non-responsive. Okay, I don't want to do this every time I am being fault. Fine, next time I'm not doing it. I'm not part of this whole thing. Okay. Now this happens, a disengagement of people. Both become defensive, become also disengaged. Offensive become definitely more powerful. And people who are zombies in between, they say we are not engaged into the thing, so they do not want to participate. So most of the time, when you are mindful, you don't take the behaviors as personally. If I am giving an opinion, it's opinion about the object or subject. It's not about to the person in person. Most of the time, we take this feedbacks very personally, and this focused on employees action rather than performance, or certain situations maybe we are creating, and that's the reason this is what is happening.
Okay.
So in organization, it helps the mindful awareness helps more constructive conversation, avoid making
Hmm.
employees feel awkward or defensive. Okay. One thing, if you would have heard of something called active listening or mindful listening. Okay, now when you cultivate mindfulness in an organization, it gives everyone an extra set of ears to listen, not to just blah 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 in a situation, and putting their one piece into it and making a contribution by just saying something rather than doing something.
Okay. Manish, can I ask you to give an
They are
example
receptive,
of
they
like a
are presenting,
constructive,
they are taking
um,
feedbacks, and then they are
not a
ready to take more
feedback, but in
positive
this like
action with
win-win
more
situation,
compassion.
right? Um, g- how would, as you talked about, how would the conversation from a manager look like uh, to their employee or anybody if they found a fault of that employee, and instead of doing the blame game, the solution game, as we call it, how would that conversation even look like? And be it in personal relationships, of course, right? Husband, wife, son, father, daughter, father, whatever it is, right? Like there are always conflicts on certain different matters, obviously. So how would these conversations look like to find a solution?
So yes, difficult. I almost run a full session on this, on mindful conversations or mindful listening or conflict resolution with families or in organizations. And feedback. First of all, the our maturity lies not in being rigid. Okay, our maturity lies in our flexibility. The more you are flexible, the more mature you are. But we think more
Hmm.
we are rigid, more mature we get. Yes, you age when you become rigid. Okay, and you when you fully aged, you become fully rigid. You die. You completely rigid. Okay, that's the end of rigidity becomes. So as a leader, one has to be more vulnerable. As a leader, more accepting the mistakes, set an example of being vulnerable, being criticized, being accepting those criticism, uh, and it flows from top to bottom. It has the more value system you are talking about. Now, if you are setting an example for your teams are more than receptive, accepting, less denying mode, more flexible to the ideas of you or your ideas or the overall ideas. So in many time in a feedback, the active listening is a very important tool. I give you one example. I was heading an organization and I have a very important position to be filled in by someone. Uh, so this person was the person who recommended was also a friend of mine from my institute, from IIM Ahmedabad. And he suggested that I have a wonderful person and I recommend this person for you. And he has done wonders. So I saw her CV and she was doing very well. So we got her into our organization. Uh, and every time 6 months passed, the HR used to bring me a complaint about this person. So I was wondering, how come this person who was performing so well, it was my wrong decision of hiring a person, or if he or she is not able to deliver. So then one day I called this person to my room and I said, listen, this is what the appraisals are happening, and this is what I wanted to have a personal chat with you. What is happening? And then she explained the whole thing, and I very patiently listened to her. Just listen. And I realized that the team which I we allocated to her was actually not the right fitment based on her skill set. So environment which we gave is like a bringing a very healthy tree from somewhere or plant from a nursery, but potting into a right, not right mud, which is required right environment. So we'd say in nursery, this plant was doing so good. What happened when I brought it home is not able to do well because the ecosystem you created that for that plant was not right. There's nothing wrong with the plant. There's wrong with something with the ecosystem we are creating. But if you prepare ecosystem, even an unhealthy plant can start it to thrive. So active listening is one very important tool where you listen and then you make then only you can respond rather than saying, listen, these are your wrongs and you have done so thing in past. Why are you not doing so now? Started with suddenly with attacking a person with their fault. Listening to them, what they may be going through, is a first step in a mindful conversation. Focus on what current actions can be needed to impact situation. Thing is, most of the time we give this feedback very late. Okay? If you're seeing something is not happening right, it's very important to address these issues very soon. Say for instance, you are two friends, you're observing certain behavior which you are not liking. There are chances that this become too issue in a long time and suddenly it will erupt in a big manner in something. You may be not liking your friends or your wife, your husband, certain things. Very inform that person in a timely manner so they then can then take a course correct in the manner and improve before the problem escalate to uncontrollable situation. In relationship, this usually happen. We start keep tolerating and it becomes You don't know if the other person is tolerating. We say tolerate. But then, if you're not addressing on timely manner, it's very compassionate that sit, listen, don't let that thing to linger on. It's timely feedback. Also in organization, we take action very late. And third, and very, very important, is the language what you use. Is it offensive? It is causing any defensiveness in a behavior. Okay. Is a natural, what kind of language are you using? Okay. And then it's not, tell the person it's not a, it's a personal attack on you. Okay. It's about the growth of an organization. It's not a criticism of a person probably, but maybe the skills, maybe the goals I wanted to achieve, maybe the
I think these three
organization's thought
points,
process
especially the
to
last point
achieve.
as well,
So
because you
then
can make
person is
them
more
sit,
patient
you
and
can make
doesn't
them
take
understand.
this feedback
But compassion is
in
absolutely
negative
necessary
manner,
to,
and more
uh,
constructively add
if you
or
want
tell the
somebody to change, and
problem.
that is not in their realm of expansion, I would say, that no, I'm like this, I don't, like this is, then there's no compatibility, or then there is no, I don't want to work for you guys because I don't see my goals or ethics align with your vision. uh, there's a way to align vision, and that's why we do vision cascading a lot. There's a way to align vision, there's a way to be compassionate, and if you're compassionate, I think people can understand what you really need and what you really want from that person. Perfect. I think this also answers my question about how to create a more mindful organization. I think the way you speak to people, your emotional intelligence, your empathy, a lot of these things help. Am I right, or is there something more, Manish, to create a mindful organization?
Yeah. See, as an emotional intelligence, what you said, it's a part of mindfulness. When you are aware, these all nuances opens up, empathy opens because you are aware about that what you are doing. So first, the gateway is mindfulness, and then the various compassion, emotional intelligence. Like I give you example. If you say, for instance, you got an admission into MIT, okay, and that means that you definitely have a great IQ because you have got an Ivy League institute. But now tell me after that, what makes those 30 students who are in
Hmm.
a one classroom their success and failure? Means all MIT student doesn't make a success. Okay. So their 85% of their success depends on how do they use their emotional agility, how they are emotionally aware. So IQ can take you to one step, but the further growth from that point onward to your personal life or a success or an organization as a boss, as a leader, as a creative guy, or as a co-worker depends on how do you use your IQ, how do you use your emotions, because IQ is only a application knowledge. The application is only done by emotions, how you deal with other people. You can't build world alone. You know how intelligent you are could be. We are social creatures, and emotions that connect with other make other people to work for you, work with you, work for you, work around you, work, stay in your society, stay in your
I think inclusion is
ecosystem,
also a big
and that
part
allows you
of
to then take better decision,
mindful
solve
organizations.
problems together.
Like,
We can't
I
alone
remember
solve
Flipkart
problem.
does
If
this.
you think you can solve
Every
problem
organization that
alone,
we have worked with,
you're thinking wrong.
Savient, SocGen, Paytm, everybody talks about inclusion a lot, and mindfulness plays a part in inclusion, a definite part, because you are aware of the situations of others and where they come from, and then you're compassionate towards them in a certain way. Of course, there's a lot of thinking, and it comes to you naturally. If you practice it, it comes to you naturally. You don't even have to try. It's just human nature. How we have been developing is something, I would say, that has strayed us away from being human itself. All these talks of capitalism, cutthroat competition. Um, in reality, we are all humans. We are all compassionate towards each other. It's not survival of the fittest. It's togetherness that we can survive. All these zombie movies where, oh, if you run faster, you survival of the fittest, basically. but together we can destroy the whole herd. So why not do that, and why just survive on their own? And all these movies or TV shows or anything that talks about this philosophy of survival of the fittest, it ends with togetherness. So there must be something with these great minds making movies like this. Perfect. I caught upon something that you said, that was emotional agility. And how can leaders use this ability, and what is this abilities? Because numerous studies have suggested that this emotional agility can help alleviate stress, remove errors, become more innovative, and improve jobs. So in this complex economy, to do that and to manage one's thoughts and feelings is essential to business success, not just for them but for the customers as well. Because where we are going, this emotional agility and being emotionally connected to people is very, very important, be it in India, US, Africa, any continent. Pick it up, people are trying to understand their emotions and being emotions towards each other. So what is this emotional agility, and how can leaders be use this process?
I would say emotional agility is one of the most underrated, beautiful weapon with the leaders to make a better society, a better organization, a better world for all of people who work. It's an amazing tool. As a leader, I've been heading so many organizations. You wear many hats. You navigate pressures from the investors, the challenges of the market, you deal with competition, you have a people. And at one point in time when I joined the organization, I had said, it was told to me, keep your emotions out and come emotionless. And today, when I was
Hmm.
started to work on emotion intelligence, and I said everything has the emotion built on it. Even a a coffee mug you bring it on your table has certain emotion on top of it. That why are you keeping that coffee mug on your table? Why are you keeping your family picture on a table? Why are you keeping a god picture on a table on the manner? How can I keep my emotional out of the organization? It's impossible. That means I'm bringing a mechanical machine inside which can't think possibly without emotion. It's so rational thinking. It's impossible to do anything without emotion. Okay, so the emotional agility is that ability to acknowledge whatever you are going through, in accepting as a natural part of human. Error is natural. Okay, it says uh, being angry is okay, but being cruel is not okay. Okay, so you accept it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to be cruel to others on your own self. Don't damage yourself. Okay, so accept those natural emotions. If you're feeling sad or angry or upset, is a natural part of human experience that makes us
Hmm.
human. That doesn't mean that chili bites you, so you should throw all the red chilies out of your kitchen. Okay, or salt is too sour, just throw it away. You need a pinch of it in your food, and that makes the food tastier. So observe those emotions with curiosity, but also with detachment. Don't just fall into it. That your love should not be that I'm so much in love that okay, I have to do. You have to have certain discernment, understanding, and there where I use these emotions, where I don't have to use. So those, and then which emotions are helpful, which are not known. But if you have this emotional intelligence that tells you which emotion is right to use at what particular time, this emotion is for my family, this emotion is for my organization. But there will be some emotion for sure. It cannot be possible you can come off as emotionless. It's impossible to have. And also these emotions are also aligned with your behavior and your value system. You have certain value systems, and this value system has some emotional connotation to you. So if you say I have certain value, being honest, when you say I'm honest, you see there is a one thin line of emotion also attached to it. And then understanding those emotions, Once you become more agile with those in emotions, you then
Without
make a
even
better
the
and informed decision.
yeah, without even the recipe also.
And when
Like
you
there's
make
no
like a
recipe that is
chef
needed. It's
making a
just
nice dish,
the
he
he's
understand
practiced it.
exactly how much of salt has to go, exactly how much of pinch of a chili has to go. Okay, it doesn't mean he likes chili, then he will, yeah, he's putting chili on. It's practiced. It's practiced. And the chef knows exactly by saying, no, listen, just a pinch of a salt. And that makes a good chef or a leader exactly know what amount of emotion is required. And that's emotional agility. It allows you to make a better decision with a
Yeah,
more
psychological
clear head
safety is a
based on
big thing.
reason, just not on reaction.
Hopefully, we'll be
Oh,
talking
I'm so
to Amy
angry. Put some
Edmondson
salt into
about
it.
psychological safety one day on this
Okay.
podcast sooner than later.
And it also makes a
Um,
stronger team, which creates a
but
psychological
uh,
safer
uh,
environment for
uh,
people.
last few things before we jump into criticisms, if we can just give some practices, a few tidbits of practices for firstly being mindful, if we can start with that, and then we can go on to the emotional agility as well.
So, I would say, see, practices, first practice, which I always say is to then activate your awareness. The first step, which I've always said, that don't start in between or somewhere. There are multiple. I teach hundreds of practices, which is based on, as a nice teacher, now I understand what is the need. Say, for when somebody comes to me, this is my organization going through, this is I am going through. So then I see, okay, these are the practices which are very important and crucial for this organization. That's how. But in generic, first of the practices that being aware, awareness is starts with one tool which is available to you, is your breath. Anytime you sit and you feel like that you have to scroll, observe where is your breath at that particular moment. Is it running very
Wow,
fast? It's running slow. Just for about 30 seconds, observe your breath. Okay, you will see that your desire
I
to
think that's
engage your
quite powerful.
brain
Quite
mindlessly will
powerful,
stop.
actually.
Just observe where is my breath at this particular time. So try doing first this practice. Second practice is that whenever in an organization or in conversation, when you're talking to someone and somebody asks you a question, like you're asking me a question, or I ask you a question, let the breath which you have taken exhaust. Because when somebody is asking you a question, there are chances you are holding your breath. And that is an accumulating thought. Because why you hold your breath? Because you are thinking at that particular and you forget to breathe. So take a deep breath and let the exhaust happen completely. And when you feel everything is gone out, then just contemplate on answer that what you have to give and then reply. So this will allows you to just clear your cache in your brain and then respond more responsively, more not reactively, but what giving a response which is a little more comes from the place of calm, not from a place of anxiety or some emotion which is already built up there. So I would say these two basic practices, if you in day to day start doing it, be already constantly in front of screens most of the time. Assign a day or assign a time in a day that this time I will do my uh, time without screen. That there will not be a TV in front of me, there will not be a computer in front of me, there will not even be a, a phone in front of me, there will be no screen practically in front of me. So I call it screen starvation. So starve yourself with that. Like at night when you sleep, you don't eat, you give your stomach a break. Okay. So similarly, give yourself a break from these gadgets. And every day, I do that every day. So about 1 hour, I keep my screens out consciously. It's not that, okay, I'm sleeping, screens are out. So consciously make sure and observe that how much you feel like going back to your phone, or maybe it's ringing, or somebody message would be coming. See how your brain tricks you. So I think these two, three practice, and then one day, every day in time, think that this is your happy moment. You need some amount of happiness dose like food. So maybe, sit with your family, crack some joke,
Beautiful.
do something funny that brings smile to you and the environment around you.
I mean, that's
It's
why my
we are
company's name
not
is also
leaving this
Happiness
place
Coach. You know, it's the same
easy
idea.
or alive.
We're going to die
So
eventually.
why not have
Uh,
some fun?
why not
So
make this
think
life a little bit more fun? Even adding
so
to
that's
that,
that's
like if
two,
you
three
can,
practices one should do.
I do this, so I don't know if it will help anybody here, but I have a set goal of doing 11,000 steps every day. Um, and in between meals or wherever I have time, I do these 11,000 steps without my phone. Um, Maybe a music on or something like that, but it is through something else. So I'm not looking at my phone at all. And it brings another level of joy altogether because there's no distraction. You are present in that.
Mm.
That's what being mind, that's what the whole podcast was about, being mindful in that present moment, enjoying that walk. And really, like, I can tell you, last night I did that and it just brought a smile on my face altogether. Always does, accomplishing a goal without being distracted towards that goal, be it anything in your life, it brings another kind of joy. When I was in law school as well, accomplishing a goal while being focused on that goal, just on that goal itself,
Mm.
and not being distracted by food or different things, that makes a lot. It brings a lot more happiness to you, and the breath work, of course, is absolutely there. Perfect. If we can also give some practices for emotional agility for leaders as well. This was more on the personal fact, but for leaders, what can they do to be more emotionally agile?
So for emotional agility, it's a very important tool is uh, is acceptance. That every time you have a day, assign yourself a day where you note down certain amount of emotions, where you see that emotions were very heavy onto you, be it anger, be sadness, or being excessively thought, you were consumed by thought. So day, give yourself a time, or a kind of make a journal that my thoughts were very active at that time, or I behaved with certain people in certain manner. This gives you sort of a camera which is observing you. So when you start doing it, a brain creates a camera that, yeah, I'm observing. Listen, I'm observing. You have to write on my book that you have done something. Now you suddenly step back that somebody is observing me. It's like what happens in a classroom. As the children, you have attended a classroom, they're playing a paper plane, and suddenly teacher comes and do nothing and just hmm, and everything settles down. So just being your observer, there is a camera on top of it and just looking at it. Exactly camera is looking. Probably somebody at the back camera may be looking at or not, but you have that awareness that camera is looking at you. So if you do this thing that you're that something is observing my behavior. Otherwise, brain thinks nobody is looking. I'm just doing whatever I like to. I'm the boss. Okay. So you have to tell that your brain that there is some boss on top of you who's looking at whatever you are doing. This gives you emotional
Perfect.
agility that
Okay. I
you're
think that
checking your
that is it
emotions now,
for
and you
the
can
the
detach
podcast
yourself.
itself,
This gives
on
you
the
an inner
knowledge of the
strength
podcast and amazing knowledge that
to
Manish has
act
given
more
us.
more
Uh,
aware.
but as with empathy, as with any other podcast that we have done previously, it gathered some criticism from people, some skeptical things, which of course I'm also skeptic about. At least before this podcast, I was skeptic about. Before the research that I did, I was skeptic about. Um, let's first talk about science, right? We kept talking about like the scientific community. So some scientists and psychologists criticize the methodology of studies on mindfulness, questioning the strength of its purported benefits. How do you respond to these critics, Manish, and what do you think the future of mindfulness research should look like?
There's no science in the world which has no critics. There's no movie in the world which has no critics, and that makes this whole world interesting and see things from everybody's perspective. Okay. So I find criticism is a healthy thing for anything possibly. It keeps checks and balances of everything, and absolute corrupts absolute. So everything should have a checks and balances. So I'm very glad that people are seeing, which means that allows them to see it a little more deeply. Sometimes you criticize, but you sometimes you also fall in love with what you criticize. And I think it's a good that they criticize, because eventually they will also gonna be fall in love with that. And the science part of it, yes, there is. I said it's a nascent science. There's a lot of work happening, a lot of thought process. As it is, humans know very little about human brain and behavioral science. Uh, uh, Post Freud, we started to see this as a part of science. Earlier, this was everything was physical. Physics was the most important science. Everything what you can touch, feel, see was the only science, and nothing else was a part of the science. So science itself is a very, very early stages of its own development. Okay. The modern science is very little. It's only 300 to 400 year old. Post Galileo, or the physical science started to come in. Post Freud, the psychological sciences started to come in. Emotional intelligence is still very at a very nascent. I think it's just born in this in this millennium. So so I think let's give it a little more time for evolved people to understand. We seeing that the world is getting more and more complex. The information, the
Very
data, the
different.
knowledge, the number of people are just growing exponentially. Okay, the information which I dealt with when I studied, and I see my child studying, the data has multifold different and grown. It doesn't look like it looks like he's doing a PhD as compared to if he's doing the 12th standard on a manner. So these guys are new generation is actually grappling with all lot of a data and information, and on top of it, an AI and constant change in the way we behave with each other is changing. So I think science is still evolving and understanding the impact of all those things on a human brain, and it's too early for anything to say.
I
But
would
I
definitely
can say
back
with
that. I
my
mean,
own
like,
experience in
since
the
the
scientific
complexity of
data I have collected, that
kind of
this
world that we are
is
going into, I just
definitely
saw on
a
my
very
Instagram. I mean,
powerful
like,
potential. It
Wendy
doesn't have
started,
any,
instead of
if
cash
I would say no
registers,
good, but there's no
who
harm
talk
also
on,
while not do it.
while picking up your order, who talk, right? And instead of that, there's an AI now. Um, you really wouldn't know like what is real, what is not. The complexity is too much now. And I'm of this generation, so not really, but a little bit older than that, but still, like, it's harder for me to comprehend like where we are going towards. Apple Vision Pro, all alternated, augmented realities, everything. I feel like basic practices would be very, very important in the future. I don't know how you feel about this, but um, when we started this company, we definitely thought about learning and development, of course, and we did think about the fact that um, how it can affect humans, but more and more and more, because of how we are developing and how sensitive the mind has become to all these complexities. It's harder for me to put it in just one place, that okay, because of the complex nature of certain things that are developing, our brains are getting softer and more sensitive, and overthink. Jobs are getting less, professional incomes are getting less. If you are in the engineering or like software development, that's really booming right now. But other than that, everything is being replaced by something or the other because it's cheaper. So, and cheap labor is always good. Now labor is not there, so you can just make AIs out of that. More efficiency, more work. Since it's a capitalistic world, we always go towards the cheapest thing, the most profitable thing. And for people, humans, right, I feel like what Manisha said is absolutely important. The impact of empathy, mindfulness, is something that that it sounds very dystopic how I've described the whole world, but I think like going back to like the basics of emotions is absolutely very, very important. uh, so my last critique of this would be, actually, that there's a growing narrative suggesting mindfulness is a cure for all mental health issues, stress, and even productivity. And I have really heard this a lot, um, from mindfulness practitioners, specifically, that it alleviates stress, it alleviates mental health issues. So is this an oversimplification, and can this perception be people that if we do mindfulness, if we are mindful, that everything will be okay?
Okay. So, first of all, the oversimplification part. Firstly, understand uh, the certain things which mindfulness can do, and mindfulness itself cannot do anything. Okay. Uh, it creates an environment which allows other nuances to thrive. Okay. It itself has no inbuilt power to change anything. It's just being aware of the reality that you are living in certain realities and accepting those realities. So practically, it has nothing to change by itself. It's not a medicine which hits the right point and then cure that thing. But it creates that environment that those things can, like if I'm eating a medicine and I'm more mindful, probably that medicine becomes a little more effective on me. Okay. If I'm aware that I'm managing my anger, but I'm not controlling it overtly, that one day I will, a volcano of my anger will blast. I have a very paradoxical behavior that someday I can be very silent and sometimes I can be a very different person altogether. So uh, you come in a reality and living in moderation of everything probability. Okay, one day I'm fasting, that I don't eat 16 hours, and suddenly I eat like that there's no tomorrow, and I say, okay, today is my eat day or cheat day. So it stops that paradoxical behaviors and gives an environment of awareness that everything is okay, change is okay, being angry is okay, being
Yes.
upset is okay, being sad is okay. I'm not overtly suppressing all those thoughts unnecessarily, which becomes a problem for me tomorrow's day. So that way, if you see, it's mindfulness is just that environment. Okay, now it's up to you how you use that environment. So critics can go and say, because there is a overcommitment people are doing for the sake of it. Okay. And which I says, please don't do that, because there is a
Yeah.
values and ethics built on it. Okay. When you do unethical work, your core values are already diluted in a manner when you so so there are three kind of people. One say, okay, mindfulness is amazing, it works for me. It
Hmm.
never works for them. Okay, because their expectation
Wow.
grows,
Okay.
amazingly
Um,
high. Okay. Second
I have
person
a
says,
partner in my
okay,
company who does gaming
mindfulness doesn't work, and it
for
will
us,
never
and
work
he just
because they
messaged
think
me
it will
right
never
now.
work. The person said, okay,
And
let me see if it
he was
works
supposed to be
and
on
it
this
works for them
podcast,
the best.
but due to our arrangements, he couldn't be. He's he has a spiritual awakening right now. He's going on a spiritual journey, right? And his critique is also there for mindfulness, and I don't know how many people do critique this, because I didn't even think about this at the start. um, Society and individual, so he believes the fact that mindfulness is very individual focused. You know I'm going to the gym. I'm being present there. It's for my own benefit. But what about the society? We should think about the society first. So how do you reconcile this personal mindfulness practice with the need to address societal changes? Because being mindful for him is being mindful towards the social change. So that is my question to you.
This very old saying, a blind cannot lead a blind. Okay. So basic meaning of spirituality itself is means ability to see inward. You cannot see spirituality of others, can you? Okay. So most of the time we are aligning to the outer or a physical world. when we say environment or things or object or positions
Hmm.
or wealth or gender or relationship or color or social status. Okay. In spirituality, we are seeking a meaningful connection with ourselves and probably something bigger than us. Okay. And in result, a positive emotion such as peace, contentment, gratitude, and acceptance cultivates. I don't know if there is something more than that. Is my soul, is my own soul, if it talks about spirituality. So that definitely the meaning of spirituality is going inward, not outward. All senses actually draw inward, not outward. It's already information which they draw from out, but the realization, everything happens inward. Okay. So the science of spirituality or emotional health is firstly you cure yourself, understand the reality of the real world. It's not that you are
A
existent
lot.
on parallel universe that you will
uh,
see outward and you will see
6
inward
right
both.
now.
Unless until you are aware of reality inward, then only you can see outward. Okay, tell me, I'll tell you. There are how many windows in your house?
Inside.
Let's count. Six. Now, how did you visualize those
Yeah.
windows? From you see outer world from inside, not from you. Why didn't you
Hmm.
saw your windows like a room from outside? So it is, you can only build a positive work outward when your inner world is at peace. And imagine that same houses exist in your locality, which are looking from inside and
Is
maintaining
this a question, Manish, that is
outward
asked to you
facade
often,
also, which means
uh,
they're creating an
about like this
environment which
individual
helps
and
the
a broader
roads, the
societal
parks, and
perspective? Because
everything,
people are
which
really,
they are
really
aware
strong
that
about
if
this.
you have a dirty
That
and broken house, the probability outward world
mindfulness
will
is
also look
more
to
about
a
individual. Like I
resemblance of your
completely
inner
believe it,
world.
and I had the same response that till the time you change yourself, like people who are doing these societal changes, they are with themselves. They have done something for self improvement, and they are aware of themselves, and that's when they are going to the societal effects. That's when they are going to societal changes. So is this like something that is asked to you in your speaking events or? uh,
I always tell the mindfulness is your personal
hmm.
practice. You cannot tell your child to mindful and you can be unmindful. This is the same practice when I go to an organization. I tell the leader mindfulness top flow from top to down. You have to be genuinely invested into subject of mindfulness. Practice yourself. You can't say, okay, I am the good. Please cure my teams. Probably it doesn't work like that. You have to demonstrate to be a mindful leader, and that's your behavior. That's your personal practice. What you are doing, but from external world people are seeing you from that, and you become a role model for an organization that encourages the environment to follow. If you follow leader, you don't follow somebody else, you follow the leader, what leader is doing. So the teams start to mimic. You when most of the
Hmm.
organization, you find mini me's, the leader behaving certain manner, everybody behaves in a similar manner, they dress up like the leader. So practically you are mimicking, and that's how mind do that. They mimic the people they like. Why don't people dress up like the film stars? Because they mimic them. They like that they are doing what they're doing it. And we always are respectful of people who have
Manish,
mental and
absolutely
physical
amazing.
and
Thank you.
emotional control with
No more
themselves.
questions from my side. This was
If you
amazing to hear from
becomes
you.
the leader,
We have
people will
chatted for
follow, and
about
that
2 hours,
creates
two
a
hours, 30
trend in
minutes more than we
society
should have.
to be a
But
nicer, to
but
be
the topic is
to be
such
a
so
more
that there are a
compassionate
lot of
and
questions,
and a better human
especially
being.
critiques. I
Thank
have,
you.
people are definitely, because it's an outer body experience and it's a simplistic experience. It's nothing that complex, even though there is a little bit complexity to it, but. People don't believe in these things, so that's why I mean, like, for me criticisms are absolutely important. As you said, you have to see two sides of it. But thank you for sharing your experiences, your knowledge. It was amazing to speak to you. And what do you envision for the future for mindfulness and yourself?
So mindfulness was there earlier. Mindfulness will remain in time to come. And as and when the complexities are growing, I don't think so. We have any other tools available to increase our mental
Hmm.
capacities, probably. In fact, we have to empty out things to get the newer things in. And ability to let go, ability to be in compassion allows you to empty out. So in future, these practices definitely needed more than what needed today. because complexity is not going to get any easier in time to come. You see the generation gaps are widening and widening. People of 28 thinks people of
40.
25 coming from alien, they are alien and coming from different planet. Even 825 thinks of 35 as aliens, they do not work with them possibly. At 22 we wanted to become successful, become CEO, entrepreneurs, millionaires and billionaires, which earlier maybe are thought after 40s. You see how we are shrinking the realities. Everything is just,
It's
tomorrow maybe
amazing. A
12 year
child out
old
of
will
the womb
become a
would be like,
billionaire or
okay, you know what? I
multi-millionaire. The
want to build
chances
an
are
empire
that.
now.
So the chances of
It is so
how
funny
we
to
are
see these kids in
pressurizing
school
society, we are
talking about
combating the
like,
expectations
I have built
so
this
early
company.
age
This
of our
is now.
life.
It's beautiful.
So
It's
we are
nice,
shrinking us.
but I feel like, come on, you have your full life to do this. Ask when you're about 30, 40, and then do something about it.
Yeah, but this is not happening now. This is neither will stop by my saying and by your saying. It is
Solution.
evolution which is taking its own shape, and that's the reason there is a this
Yeah.
everything
Let your
mushrooms because of
brain
the reason,
not be the
because of the
master of
environment.
you, but
And why
as you said,
suddenly the
master
mindfulness
your
and
brain
interest is
is
mindfulness has become,
absolutely
because there
important.
is a need.
Doctor talk
So when nature
Buddha
gives you
talked about
problem, they
this. A
also
lot
give
of
you
people talked
solution.
about this.
Prob-
Mastering
yeah,
your
so
brain and
probably
not letting the
mindfulness is
brain
the
master you is
solution,
absolutely
and
important. Thank you,
probably both
Manish,
things will come.
for this excellent conversation. Check Manish out on all his socials. Manish does coaching for a lot of leaders on the topics that we talked about, if not more. And thank you, Manish, again for doing this with us.
Thank you, Yash, and all my best wishes for your this podcast and for your organization. You're doing wonderful. Continue doing it, and my best wishes to you.